Some people have a way of making you love Jesus more simply because of the way they follow him. That's exactly how I feel about today's guest, my dear friend Kista. Kista has one of the most tender hearts I know. Over the years, she's walked through infertility, foster care, adoption, raising children with significant needs, and countless moments where God's plan looked very different than the one she expected. Yet, through it all, she has continued to practice trusting him, even when it was hard. In this conversation, you'll hear incredible stories about recognizing God's voice, learning to receive help instead of carrying everything alone, why God knew I would struggle and chose me anyway, changed everything for her, and how letting go of perfection has helped her find more peace, joy, and confidence in motherhood. I know you'll walk away loving Kista, but even more importantly, I think you'll walk away trusting the Savior a little bit more. So let's dive in. Welcome to Shining Moments. This is the part of the podcast where we slow down and make space for a real woman's story. A mother who is learning, imperfectly and faithfully, how to live, love, and serve in her own God-given way. I often think about God's work like a great masterpiece made of puzzle pieces. Some pieces are bright, some are quiet, some are busy and complex. Some are busy and complex, others are simple and steady. And while many may look similar, no one else fits quite where you fit, or carries the light you were meant to bring. In these conversations, we'll explore the ins and outs of motherhood, the beauty of divine design, and the many ways Zion is built through variety, unity, covenant, and love. Let's listen in. All right, Kista, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Kirstin. You're one of my favorite people.
The feeling's mutual. Do you want to share with everyone how we met in person and online?
Oh my goodness. Okay, it's a really long story, so I'll make it not super long. I live in Virginia and you're in Utah. And there is this wonderful woman named Marla Gale, and she created a LDS content creator conference. And I just felt very strongly I needed to go. And I was like, I hate flying. God, why are you telling me to go? So I bought a plane ticket and I found a place to stay. And I was super nervous and I didn't know anybody. And I came in and I was waiting in line they were doing some headshots for everybody. And I don't know, something caught my attention. I thought I heard someone say my name. And I looked over and you're like, I need to go hug Kista. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people know my name. And I'm like, oh, and I love her. And you came over and we hugged and it was just like, not a first time hug. It just felt like a familiar hug. And so, yeah, we met there and I've been just keeping up with a lot of the contacts that I made from that conference. But you were one of my favorites to keep in contact with. You are so fun and your light shines so bright. And I didn't even really know about the podcast or like that you were a coach or anything. I just loved you. And so you did this, you did the webinar for Radiant Motherhood Society, and I was not really interested, but I was totally interested in like supporting you and cheering you on. And it was funny because when it was all over, I just kept feeling like this is for you. And I didn't really know what to take about that because I felt like I have a pretty good relationship with Jesus Christ. And even though mothering is hard, I felt like I was doing okay. And finally, I just was like, okay, let's do this. And I reached out and doing this with you has been so amazing. I thought that I knew my Savior, and I did. But what you've taught me is deeper relationship. And it's just been amazing. And I'm still learning it. I'm still reminding myself of the things, like trying to ride a bike. I'm like, oh, I forgot about this thing I learned with Kirstin. I need to practice this more and I need to keep this in my mind. But so I'm so glad that I did this with you. And I have this book that you gave me. And it is, I don't know if I'm even showing this properly, but I have like so many notes and I filled it all the way up. I was even writing on the back cover. So I finally got out a notepad and filled a lot of that out as well. But you know how you can go to church and you can hear a wonderful Relief Society lesson or talk or testimony, and you're just like, oh man, you're just motivated to be better and to do better. And you go home and you change your clothes and you're getting lunch, and then you're just back to you again. And so every time we had our one-on-one together, it felt that like, oh my gosh, this is amazing and I'm going to do better. And then I had to do the exercises, like you have this, like these questions that you ask that help me really take it to my own personal level. And that was essential. And not only that, but just rereading some of the things that I wrote notes about. I have like dog ears and everything, just because those are the things that I really need to remember, or those are the things that are speaking to me today. And it's been amazing. I we'll kind of talk a little bit about my family, but we were foster parents. And when you're in foster training, you have to have so many hours of training. And then to continue to be an active foster parent, to be able to get placements, you have to have at least 10 more hours per year. And it's interesting because the things that you learn, you're only learning them because you have to be able to have this certificate and to be active in taking placements and caring for the children. But if everybody had this training, the world would be a much better place. We would have all this knowledge to help us raise our family. And that's how I feel about Radiant Motherhood Society. I feel as though if everybody had this understanding and this knowledge, then we wouldn't feel so alone. We wouldn't beat ourselves up so hard when we feel like we failed. We'd actually see the failure for like, this is actually going to lead to success. This is helping me become what one of your questions I think is, how can this help me become? And so it's just learning to think of the things that are hard differently. But also, one of my favorite things that you shared in the beginning was that you start your day with Jesus. Even the hard parts that are probably going to happen, like maybe an upset with a child, you plan through the day with him and maybe even include those. And that was just so amazing to me. And I did that a few times and it really did change things. And so anyways, I just really enjoyed not only our time together and our one-on-ones, but just learning differently and deeper. And you put so much about Jesus and the gospel and stories from the scriptures in here, and those spoke to my heart so strongly.
When I met you, like I remember meeting you online first because we were put into, Marla also created an online support group where we could help each other in the online space. And I met you through that. And just we would go and engage with each other's content online. And just to see your testimony, I loved how much you love Jesus. Like it's shown since the beginning. And so, like, let it be known that Radiant Motherhood Society is not, are you struggling with your testimony? Like, that's fair. If you are, totally fair. And it's for you too. But what I have seen with Kista through this journey is like she said, like you said, the radiant relationship helps you become the radiant mother. And because you like have worked so hard on deepening that relationship that you had already started and cultivated into like it's binding in every area of your life, it's helping you radiate even more than before. Like you shone brightly at the creators conference and I couldn't not hug you. It just was so fun. But I know this next time we see each other in person again, it'll just be even bigger, better. Like I can anticipate heaven is like where we just
Yes.
see each other, and because Christ is in us and with each other, it's just Zion
Yeah,
personified, you know?
that was a Zion hug for sure.
Absolutely. So now I do want to hear about your family. Go ahead and share your
Okay.
family.
So my husband and I got married, and I expected to follow in my mom's footsteps and be pregnant like on the honeymoon. And it just didn't happen. A couple years went by, and we started thinking maybe we should do some tests and see. So I'm not going to go into all that. It was hard. I don't like needles. I don't like blood draws. And we did a couple different, like very less invasive procedures, but nothing happened. And then several years, probably 6 or 7, I don't really honestly know, but I remember talking to my sister-in-law. He's like, I feel like it's time. I just don't know how my children are coming. Like, do I adopt them? Do we do foster care? Do we do in vitro? And it was kind of funny because I was just so stuck in my head that I couldn't hear the spirit, right? So Heavenly Father sent us mail. The answer came in the mail.
That's fun.
At the time, we had insurance that had infertility coverage up to like $12,000. And we had used some of it for the lesser invasive procedures. And when that came in, it came in the mail, and it said basically by the end of the year, the benefit would disappear. They were not going to renew that ever. And so that was kind of the answer. And it was funny because I think that was the next day or 2 days later, I was like, I feel like this is our answer. And he's like, I feel the same way. And then I was like, no, it's going to come with a lot of needles. And so, yeah, so we did it. And I was hoping for a 2-for-1 because, it was a lot of money
Expensive,
and a
yeah.
lot of needles and hormones and all the things. And we did get pregnant. I just got pregnant with one. And there was a little bit of a difficulty in the beginning, but it just went so well. And he was born, and everything was it just went so well. And that's not to say that things didn't happen. My blood pressure was like a little stroke high at that point. And he was actually born on Mother's Day, which I've had a really hard time with Mother's Day before and after having kids. But it was funny because I didn't even realize until somebody came. They're like, "You had a baby on Mother's Day." And my blood pressure was so high that I couldn't really comprehend that fact or how I felt about it. But so fast forward about a year and a half, we had some eggs in the embryo storage, and I just felt this feeling like it's time. And I didn't take it to God this time. I just was like, it's time. This is what happened last time. This is how I felt. It's just time. I didn't pray about it. And so we did it again. And I truly thought I was pregnant. I was already in like maternity clothes at this point because I was just bigger. And so we were at the movie theater when they called, and I came out to talk to them, like away from the loud movie. And she's like, I'm sorry, honey, but you're not pregnant. I was like, no, I'm totally pregnant. Like, did you mistake my labs with someone else's? And she's like, no, honey, I'm so sorry. And that actually threw me for a loop for a little bit. Um, I really questioned, like, was that the spirit? The first time, was that meant to be? Like, I just went through all my spiritual moments of yes, this is what you need to do. And I questioned all of them. Like, was I supposed to marry my husband? Because that was another big answer from God. And so um, once I calmed down from that, we decided to do the adoption through LDS Social Family Services. And at that time, it was like made to be affordable for everybody in any circumstance. And so we had called them up and asked questions, and they're like, okay, just get your deposit together. And as soon as you have that, we can get started. So we called back months later and right, we were so excited. Okay, we have our deposit. What do we do now? And she's like, I am so sorry. But as of 3 days ago, they changed it to where you now have to get the home study somewhere outsourced. And it can be between like $5,000 and $8,000.
My goodness.
And after the in vitro, both times, like it was just like, no, we don't have the money for this. And I was just devastated. And I just remember walking out of the room crying. Oh, my husband, I think he was still on the phone. And then fast forward a couple months. My son is watching TV. I'm sitting on the couch and I was looking through my emails on my phone. And there's a Relief Society newsletter. And it said at the very bottom in this teeny tiny corner, our community needs more foster families. And I was just mad. I threw my phone across the room and I was like, Heavenly Father, if this is what we're supposed to do, just tell it to James, my husband, because I don't want to hear it. I'm not in a place for this right now. I already did hard, and this is going to be so much harder. And I just was angry, and I threw a little temper tantrum. And over the next 48 hours, he just kept sending me things as simple as songs and messages like on the radio, and just it was obvious those were to me. And finally, there was a sweet little lady that we used to teach the CTRA class with, and we were at a baptism. And I was in a rush to leave to go somewhere, and she chased me out of the building. And she's like, Kista, Kista. And I'm like, oh, hey, Ruby. We hugged. And I was like, I've got to go. I've got to get to this place. And she's like, I just need to tell you, last night I had a dream about you, and I knew you needed me. And that was it. I started crying and I was like, you had to send Ruby. And so I just said, okay, I'm ready to listen. And we called DSS up and they talked to us about what it would look like. And the classes were starting in like a month or two. I can't remember. It wasn't long. So you go to the first class and it is rough. That first class will make or break your decision. So they have you watch this video of someone coming into a little girl's room. And that's all I'm going to say. And then they finish the video and they're like, okay, we're going to take a break now. I went to the bathroom to just breathe and just say, what have you gotten me into?
Yeah.
Can I do this? And later the trainer was like, yeah, people don't come back after that video. Not everybody, but a lot of people don't come back. And so we took the training. I think it was like 3 months. And we learned a lot of things. And we met really amazing people. And then something funny happened. The night that we graduated, I had run up to her and said, hey, I also want to be a respite family. So a respite family would give reprieve to somebody that needs a break, or let's say there was a family that went to Disneyland and for whatever reason, their foster kids couldn't go with them. And so we took them for like a week. And so I had told her, I want to do this too, but it was so loud with all the celebrating in the room that she thought I said, I only want to do respite. So we graduated shortly before Thanksgiving and we didn't get a call until Easter. And I was so confused. I was like watching all of our other friends that we had made getting all these placements and coming and going placements and just like, maybe she doesn't like us. I don't know, just trying to figure it out. She called me on Easter and was like, I know you only want to do respite, but I have a baby. And I'm like, what? No, we weren't just doing respite. And she's like, oh my gosh, I misheard you. And so it was fine. We got to love on this baby for like a night. And then after that, the ball started rolling and we started taking children in. And it was an amazing experience, mostly because I knew Heavenly Father was in it the whole time. And a lot of people would say, I don't know how I can love them and let them go again.
Yeah.
And for me, it was so obvious that his hand was a part of everything. I was able to understand that even if he just gave them to our home for one night for a soft place to land, that was what like we got to do.
Mhm.
And we had a little girl for like 6 weeks and she was not going to stay. And I just knew that no matter what, like he's got her. And so then we had a phone call for just one night. It's just going to be one night. There's family coming the next day. And so I was like, of course, we were in Home Depot. We just walked in, we just walked right back out. And our little thing that we did was we would get pizza and we would sing I'm a Child of God, make sure they get a bath and any other needs. I had bins of clothes for all ages and sexes, so we wouldn't have to go running to the store or anything. The most important thing they typically needed right away was food, a bath, and sleep. And so we got this teeny tiny little girl, baby girl. She was like 5 pounds. She was in preemie and I was burping her like this because she was so tiny. And then the next day I took her and handed her off to family and just went on with life. And then 2 weeks later, we were actually in the Washington, D.C. temple. And it was funny. I was turning my phone off and I just had this thought, she's going to call. And I was like, no, she's not going to call. I'm just making things up. And so we were at the temple, came out, turned my phone on, and it just started blowing up.
Oh,
So she called.
oh,
And she then started calling like friends from the foster care training group and my family members. And they're like, where is she? Should we hold this baby? We don't know what to do. I think it was a Saturday. And so I finally called her back and she's like, was I right to hold this baby for you? And I was like, yeah, but I'm like 2 hours away at least. She's like, just come. She'll be here when you come.
wow.
And so that is my daughter that we first adopted. And the way that foster care in our area works is that it's always about reunification. But if that's not possible and there's no other family members, typically you are the first ones they ask, do you want to adopt this child? And that's how it worked. And then she had two little sisters born. And those are amazing stories in themselves. And I'm probably going to skip ahead. Well, I don't know. This one's kind of funny. So her sister that was born after her, um, I so the mother had kind of dropped off the face of the earth at that point. And we all knew she was pregnant, but we didn't know what was going to happen. And I had already kind of like bonded with this baby because of all the meetings that had been going on. It was obvious that most likely she would be removed immediately.
Yeah.
And so I was just stressed, but also trying not to. And then I got the flu and the phone rang.
Yeah.
And the caseworker's like, come pick her up from the hospital. I was like, I have the flu. I can't even walk. And she's like, well, is your husband sick? And I was like, no. And she's like, all right, send him over and you just don't touch the baby for 2 days. And so that's what happened. And she just like, what's it called? Imprinted. She like loved my husband. And so for 2 days, he woke up every 2 hours to feed her and just take care of her. And it was really sweet. And then like they're all about 15 to 18 months apart. So we had adopted the second little one and we were kind of cross country, went to Utah, we're coming back. And we had just gotten to a friend's house. We were planning to stay there for the weekend and the phone rang. And I, just answered, was like, hey, I can't take any placements right now because we're out of town. And she said, well, are you sure? Because mom just had another baby. And so all of us were surprised. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I need to pray about this real quick and call you back. And she's like, well, wait. Before you do that, I just need you to know she's in a different jurisdiction now. And so it's not just our decision. We have to talk with them and they have to say yes. But first, I needed to know if it's a yes for you. And I was like, okay, I'm going to call you right back. Talked to James, prayed about it, called her back, said yes. And she's like, all right. So like 4 or 5 hours go by. And we're trying not to stress, but I'm already in nesting mode, just trying to figure things out. Like, when do we leave? It was really hard to relax and just be with our friends, be present with my friends, right?
Oh,
And so she called back and she's okay, it's really complicated. They're not going to take her from the hospital. They want to give mom another chance. So, and I just said, so basically within a week, I'm probably going to have a baby. And she's like, well, I like your positivity. And I'm like, well, no, I'm being realistic. We both know the case, and most likely this is going to be what happens. And she's like, yeah, that's true too. So we basically did come home early. I started getting everything ready, and she was 7 days old when they called and they said, okay, they're bringing her to you, which is not normal
Yeah.
because we always went to go pick the child up. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And then they call back and they're like, oh, change of plans. Something's wrong. They're taking her to the ER. And so I'm just kind of on standby waiting, but also feeling calm. And so they come and they bring her inside, and she's 7 days old, but she's just splayed out. Like she's not in the fetal position at all. She's just like as splayed out as she can. And they're like, yeah, we took her out of the house and we thought she was dead. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so, um, yeah, it was a rough start for my youngest. And there's been a lot of like complications. And for a while we were like, was there a loss of oxygen? Do we just not know what's happening? There's other things. There's like genetic uh, depletions, I guess. And so, um, but it took years to figure that out.
Yeah.
And so we got to have our family, and we knew we weren't done, which was kind of weird because we had run out of room in our house. And we just kept following the Lord. And even when it sounded crazy, like we had just bought a house and it had one extra bedroom, but it happened to be in the basement. And my son was like, nope, I can't do it. And so I was like, well, that's why we bought this house. And so I will say we got to host a teenager. And so that room was literally just for her. That house was for us to be able to have her for like 6 weeks. And she had a baby, and we were able to take care of her and watch her take care of this baby as an amazing, just turned 15-year-old young woman. It was beautiful. And so then we were like, we have to have 4 bedrooms upstairs. And it was crazy because we just bought this house. We didn't have any equity in it, and it was just not not the smart thing to do. And there was this development building, and we were like, that's the house. And it was way bigger than we needed. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. And it just got open doors. It was crazy. And then we moved in, told DSS, okay, you can take us off like our hold because now we have a house again. And within a couple months, we got a call about there's 5 siblings, and we were asked to take the 2 oldest. And so we did. And um, we were able to take care of one of the siblings was taken to her a family member, but the older one stayed with us, and they told us like this is an adoption waiting to happen, so you need to decide if this is something you want to do and prepare yourselves. And so we just fell in love with this young lady. And without sharing too much, her 2 siblings, twins, came to stay as well. And the plan was to adopt all 3. And then things kind of happened, and it was just not seen as by DSS as going to be a healing situation for them to all be in one home.
Mhm.
And so we were able to adopt one of them. And there's that's our family. And we've got a lot of things that are big in our family. And I have amazing stories where I was doing it all, but I was running myself ragged. And I was constantly getting blessings where they were saying, don't run faster than you can. And I'm like, well, how do I not do that? I have to do all these things. They're all little, like nobody can care for them. And we had a therapist coming to our home for my little one. And she said, Kista, you need help. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And she said, there's this whole program through Medicaid that will, if she qualifies, they'll pay for an aid. And so I was like, she was like, they're gonna tell you no. Like they're just gonna deny you and just keep trying and they'll figure out a way to make it work for your family. And I was just like, I'm fine, I can do this. I can do this, right? I had to kind of swallow that pride and just look around and recognize that like because of my other kids' big needs,
Yeah.
she wasn't getting the attention she needed to kind of thrive more. Like she at one point they were like, her legs don't move. Like we need to do an MRI and find out if there's something pinched because she's not really moving her legs. And there was just so many things, so many things. And um so finally I said, okay, let's do this thing and have somebody come interview and see if we qualify for this. And the lady came and she was like, yeah, they're probably going to reject you. And here's how you like appeal. And so I just had no expectations. And she's like, it's going to take at least 2 weeks. That letter came in less than 7 days. And I opened it and it just said, you qualify. And I think we qualified for 49 hours of extra care. And I just sat at the counter and I just sobbed because I did not realize until I read that letter and felt the physical relief how much I had been running faster than I could.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
And so then started this journey of figuring out, do I let a company bring someone into my house or do I find somebody? And I mean, that's a totally another amazing story. But God sent this family to move into our ward right around this time. And she's been working with my little one for about 8 years. And she's family now. And it's been pretty amazing. And one of the last visits we went to with our neurologist, the neurologist saw how much my daughter had improved. And she's like, and she was speaking to my friend, her name is Evelyn. She said, I just want to tell you thank you because this is not normal. And I know you have a huge part in this. And I was like crying, she was crying. And mostly it was just because like I can tell her this all the time and other people, like my parents, but like this came from a medical professional that doesn't really know her,
Yeah.
but she was seen by her, and like it was just super powerful. And so God's always been in our story. And I just really thought I had this amazing understanding of how he talks to me. And I do. Sometimes that's come in the mail or my email because I can't listen. But I'm learning to listen and just working with this program, Radiant Motherhood Society, it just helped me fine tune that, when you're on the radio and you're trying to just fine tune, get the static out. It's amazing. And there's something that you said. Oh, I lost my place. I just had it ready. Oh, there it is. Just flipped right open to it. God cannot send you into greater stewardship if you are chronically depleted. And I had been feeling chronically depleted for a long time. Even with help, I just felt like I didn't get to complain because I have more help than a lot of other people in this situation have. And I do know that there is greater stewardship ahead for me. And just wondering, like, how is that possible? How can this happen? You see it every day. So how can you help me do this? And I don't even know why I'm asking that. I mean, obviously the natural man's asking it. And lately I've just been recognizing that um, if it's his will, I don't need to stress about it. So there's something I'm working on now. And I was starting to get stressed. And then finally I was like, no, I'm not going to stress about this. It's in your hands. Like I've done all the things I can till now. So it's up to you to make the miracles happen. And then let me know when it's time to start running again. So um
I love
that's all I
that
am.
you have like I love that you have a ton of energy and you have a lot of desire to serve, and you fiercely love your family in the way it came together and how you know each of them is an important child of God. And I love that you are not a quitter on any sort of the scale at all. And the way you've been able to tune the radio to see God and to hear him and to follow him and recognize what the static is that was making it harder for you to hear him. It's just made it where that love that you already did have, that testimony you already did have, was only enhanced. And you had greater capacity, you had greater faith, you had greater love, greater hope, greater direction because of just removing the static enough to be able to see him. And I love that I'm noticing each time we're still connecting in our own ways too. And um, you are so much farther along, but at the same time, you still are finding static. And
Yeah.
what's cool about the tools that we've worked together on is you've been able to say, oh, yeah, I remember that tool. I remember how to find the static. I remember how to like transfer that past held belief I no longer
Yeah.
desire and to use this one and to just put it on and keep going. And it's been so fun to watch. I wanted to ask you because you talked about um how you were at capacity and you didn't know how you could move forward more. One of the big things we do talk about in Radiant Motherhood Society is my puzzle analogy and how we all are part of the bigger puzzle and we all have something to give and something to receive. And Zion is built on many radiant mothers together working to care for our stewardship as well as support and help others in their stewardship. How do you feel like that concept impacted you and is still impacting you with how much you carry in your family?
I think I still have that same, like, no, I've got this. It's just something I need to take out and just like relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny because when I was doing that part of the program, I even have it in here somewhere. I had some puzzle pieces and how I give and then how I receive. And um, it was funny because someone had said, "Hey, I love crafting. How about I come over one day and I do a craft with your kids so you can just have some time to yourself?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to put you out," right? Is my first thought. Um, but it was around that same time and I was like, let her do it. Just let her do it. Even if I'm just doing absolutely nothing or I'm cleaning my room or listening to a podcast, like just let her come over and she was going to do everything. I didn't need to be involved at all. And then that way I'd have my time. And I've gone through these times of feeling guilty when someone else is with my kids because it's like, but that's my job. And and so I've really been learning to it had to be make myself let go. But after that, oh, here it is. Look at that. Well, that just worked
There
again.
it is. There we are.
Oh, what I give and what I gain. And so, what I gain is strengthening through endless grace, encouragement, and listening. And these women that have become part of my village, that's what they like. They get to see my good, bad, and ugly because they're in my house. They know all the things and they get to see how I react all the time. And it's not always perfect. And it's that perfect word. And sometimes it's like, oh, I wish I hadn't said that. And they still love me and they still come and they still love my kids and I'm so hard on myself. And we talk about living in shame, this shame and guilt thing in Radiant Motherhood Society, and that was real for me. Like I would just beat myself up all day long. And it was during this time that I was really really learning more about the atonement and just like maybe it wasn't my best, but maybe it was the best I could give in that moment. And just talk with Heavenly Father about it in prayer that night and give myself grace because this this is a lot.
Yeah.
And there's still times, especially during, I know it was during, I don't remember which part of Radiant Motherhood Society. Well, first I have to tell you, and I don't know if I've told you this before, I had a really hard time with the word radiant
Okay.
because in my motherhood, I don't feel radiant.
Yeah.
In my friendships with other sisters and stuff, I feel radiance
Yeah.
there. But in my mothering, I'm just so hard on myself.
Yeah.
There's no radiance there. And so every time I was like, I'm going to my radiant mother. I don't remember how I would say it, but I would say it in a way my friend would always giggle because I'm like, I don't feel radiant. Is not like I can't take that on. It doesn't compute with my brain as a mother. But it's starting to not feel that way to me anymore. I can say the word without like smiling um and mostly it's just because I'm giving myself a lot more grace and, these, you talk about explosions in the science lab. And yeah, we've got a lot of explosions here. There's a lot of thinking outside the box in our home because what might work today does not work 3 days later. And so we've just really got to be creating all the time
Yeah.
and hypothesizing. And so it's pretty funny. Um,
If I can go off
yeah,
on that for a
yeah.
second. So, what is so interesting to me about all of us mothers, and thank you for bringing it up, is we identify with how well we think we do motherhood. Like we create our own identity
Yeah.
on how we think we're doing. But if you look at a scientist, do you feel like we place the scientist, oh, they're a good scientist if
Mhm.
they never have explosions, if they never have any zero result experiments?
That's right.
No, we think they're a good scientist when they ask more questions
Yeah.
and when they're willing to dive deeper and they clean up the mess and they try again and they keep persevering, right? And
Yeah.
so, what I love about calling it radiant, so if those of you who haven't listened to this podcast before, I ask at the end of my episodes, my guest interview episodes all the time, what makes you beautiful? And every single time it makes everyone squirm. Oh, I don't think I'm beautiful. Like, or how do I define my own beauty? Because I'm not this ideal that's in my mind. And both with that question as well as the fact that it's radiant motherhood, it's not how we're doing that defines our radiance. It's the fact that we are God's children. We are his beloved daughters, and we radiate when we connect with him. And we keep trying and we keep engaging. We clean up the messes. We cry for a little bit. We drop to our knees. God, I don't have any more. But the fact that we're dropping to our knees instead of punching walls or whatever other idea there could be, like that's what makes us radiant, not because we're flawless and we have Stepford wives dresses on and we're just amazing, right? And I loved watching you through this because obviously you're not completed, you're not there. None of us will ever be on this side of mortality. But the fact that you keep showing up and you keep engaging, to me, you radiate
Yeah.
because you know how to come back to Christ. You know how to say, what do I need to keep learning? How do I keep engaging?
Yeah.
Instead of, why is this happening to me? And why do they have to be like this? And
Yeah.
all of those, you know?
Yeah. It's funny because I was also having a moment and I was like, I don't think Heavenly Father knew what he was doing when he asked me to be a teenage mom. And then I just had to laugh because it's like, of course, he knows that this is my first time. And I'm not expected to be perfect. And a lot of that came from Radiant Mother Society is
In
this is my
fact,
first time doing this.
the story that you gravitated towards in that same thought process was Soraya.
Yes, I
Do you want to
definitely
share
wanted to
that?
talk about that.
Share it.
So you had talked about how Soraya struggled when when her sons went back to get the breast plates. And you said something that is so important to me, and it just like flipped a switch in my soul, probably. And you said, God knew she would struggle and he chose her anyway. And I just immediately wrote down, God knew I would struggle and he chose me anyways. And so one of the reasons that is so important to me is I didn't really talk about this part. So my parents had asked me when I was like 15 or so if I wanted my patriarchal blessing. And I was like, no, I'm not ready. And I kind of went inactive for a couple years. And then we moved here to Virginia and I got my blessing because I was ready and I was cleaning up my life and everything. And there was a couple things that I had prayed about prior. I never had met this man. And he answered one of them with like, in the, after saying like who I am and whatever, like the first sentence talks about this thing. And I'm just like, whoa. And then he talks about my husband, and it's very specific. I do not yet know him. And I had just started dating this guy that I really liked. And so I was like, oh, And shortly after that, it goes on to talk about my children, who they are in heaven, how I need to raise them, and how our house needs to be for them to be prepared to complete their missions on earth. And it even at the very end says, I prepare you to understand this very important, I don't remember the word mission probably. Um, and so I take it very seriously. But at the same time, when we couldn't get pregnant, that was hard to read. Okay, so where are they? And um, as time has gone on, in fact, when we were on the way home from our friends to pick up, to get home to be ready for this third baby to come, I called my parents on the phone and told them everything. And I said, look, I am in the car. Do you have a copy of my patriarchal blessing? Because I really need to read it right now. Ooh. And so my mom found it pretty quick and she read it to me. I mean, we were all crying. It was just so beautiful. And as time has gone on, through all the struggles and all the things, I know I covenanted with my children to find them. And one of the things that was in that 48-hour period of that time when God was like, no, you really need to consider foster care. My mantra had become, I will not give up on us. And that's from like a Jason Mraz song. I can't remember who the woman he sings with, but they're basically divorcing or breaking up or something. And he's like, I won't give up on us. And that turned into I don't know how they're coming, but I'm not going to give up on us. And now things are hard. I've got teens and tweens, and there's a lot of special needs. And my mantra of I will not give up on us is the same. It just is different meaning now.
Yeah.
And so it's just been something that has been really beautiful. And God knew I would struggle. And it's okay. And he still loves me. And he still will like protect them when I'm not my best self. And he will still forgive me when I'm not my best self. And he will still help me. Like there's been so many prayers that he's answered with like, hey, let's try this.
Right.
Maybe they need this right now. There was a time when I had a daughter having a really, I don't want to say meltdown, but she was crying in her room and just verbally tearing herself apart. And I was going to go in and just be like, no. But the spirit was like, no, you need to let her right now. She needs to have this time right now. And I'll let you know when to come in. And he did. And so we had this moment where we just sat on her bed and we cried and we talked. And it was just like this beautiful thing. I don't know if she even remembers this time, but I do. And so something happened recently. My son had to take a test. We were homeschooling and now he's going to finish in public school, but they weren't going to accept our curriculum. And so he has to test out of everything to get the high school credit for the diploma. And so this is just the track we're going. And it's been a little stressful because it was like 2 years ago he did algebra one. And even though he just passed algebra two with an A, it's different still. And so he's really nervous. Like, I don't remember how to do this. And so we had to sit down for like 2 weeks. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, is he going to be able to pass this test? He only gets one chance. And so we were working really hard. We were praying a lot. And then finally, before bed that night, I was like, we need to give him a blessing. And so my husband asked him, and he said yes. And he was talking, and he said these words, and they were for both of my son and for me. When you've done your best. And the Spirit told me, like, you did your best with his schooling. It's going to be okay. Like, he didn't promise me he's going to pass the test. He just gave me this peace. And it was for both of us. We both felt peace after this blessing. And he passed the test the next day. It was just like the most amazing thing. I didn't know he was going to pass it. I had a plan B for what we were going to do. And I didn't even need to go there. And so there's just been so many of these moments lately where I'm just like, you know what? I just need to give this to you right now because I can't handle this anxiety that it's adding when I need to do all these other things too. So if you what was it? If you are going to give me a greater stewardship, help me not stress with this one. It's been pretty amazing.
I think what I've noticed too is God has taught you since the very beginning that things don't need to look a certain way to be good.
Yeah.
In fact, like when we look at the creation story and we see him calling the end of each day good, we see flawlessness because he's magnificent and the beauty of the earth is magnificent. But what we don't take into effect is the fact that it didn't have to be that way. Like it didn't have to look a certain way. There could have been other people, other angels that were assisting him with the creation that could have said, no, it needs to look this way. And we have to wait a little bit longer before we add the water because of whatever idea they had. Or like, this is the progression that it needs to have. And they had their own idea. And yet, in his wisdom and order, like this is the way he did it. And he called it good, sufficient, done.
Yeah.
And what he's teaching you and all of us is that like your children don't need to come to you a certain way to be good. They
Yeah.
don't need to act a certain way to be good. Your family home evenings don't need to look a certain way to be good. Like your mothering doesn't have to look a certain way to be good. Like good to him is very different than good to us.
Yeah.
He
Absolutely.
calls it good because it's sufficient, because it meets the need, because we're coming to him, we're engaging, we're having effort, and we're seeking to let God prevail. And that is good, you know?
I love talking with you.
It's
That
so,
good, that story with good is one of my favorites that you share because um, it's an easy one to remember and to take into my everyday and just be like, it doesn't have to be this huge to do. It can just be a very simple, intentional act.
yeah. Even if your son didn't pass the test, it could still be good,
Absolutely. We had plan B. It was a good one.
right? And God would take care of you and your son, and everything would still be good.
Yeah.
And there have been other circumstances in your life where things didn't turn out the way you wanted them to, and
Yeah.
still they were good because God is good, you know?
Yeah.
And I think what I've loved is watching your connection with trusting Him, even when it doesn't look the way that your mind wants it to look at the beginning. Like we all have this ideal in our minds, and when we have to shift, it can be really hard.
Yes.
But watching you shift with trust, it's beautiful.
And it's still not 100% natural to me, but the more I do it, the more easy it is to like recall, hey, I can just give this to him. I remember one time I was so angry. I was driving the car and I don't remember why I was mad, but I was super angry at my kid. And I just was like, Heavenly Father, we're coming to a stoplight. And I was like, I don't want to be angry right now. Can you take this from me? And it was just like this question. I had no idea what was going to happen. And within seconds, it was gone. And I just looked around. I think I missed the light turning green even because I was like, did that really just happen? And I've tried it since then, and it doesn't always work. But it was just one of those moments where it's just like, wow, that feeling in my body was preventing me from feeling love.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful. And so the more I try to recognize that I'm in that spot, the easier it is to kind of do that celestial thinking and just figure out, is this even important right now?
Right.
And then if it's not, then how do I regulate my emotions? And one thing that's been kind of cool, and I think you and I talked about this one time, was me processing in front of the kids and modeling to them, like, I have big feelings right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just need to process a minute to process them. And I need to keep doing that still. But it's actually pretty cool. It's kind of cool to do that.
As a teaser for you guys, basically the idea of processing in front of your kids, one, shows them you're not perfect. You have big emotions and they're hard for you. And so it's okay not to be all put together as you're processing them, but to feel them messy and just talk your way through it instead of hiding it, because it shows them what it looks like, because they've never seen it happen before, like the processing of emotion. And so it's new to them. And when you do it, they can see, okay, mom can do it, so I can do it. Like if she has big emotions, then it's okay if I have big emotions. It's not, it could still be scary, but it's not bad if I have big emotions. And then two, for you to say, like, this is how I'm feeling, this is how it's showing up in my body, and this is how I'm like feeling it and working through it. And of course I'd feel this way because of, like going through the process, it helps them start to visualize how to do it for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's so helpful because as you're in real time taking care of yourself, you're showing them how to take care of themselves, like the essence of motherhood right there.
Yeah.
And it's
Some
so
things,
valuable.
one thing
Okay.
that's really cool is I have a kiddo that when they get really upset, they kind of shut down and then all the anger comes out in a way that gets tricky with other relationships. And I don't think this is because I've been modeling it. I think this is just from the repetition of talking about these things. But the last couple times she's been angry, she's gone into her room and like journaled or read scriptures and I'm just like, I think that's awesome. I love that you did
Well,
that.
and the spirit is there in your home because you've been trying since day one to have the spirit there in your home. And so, whether it's you showing modeling or the different times you've talked about how to work through emotions, or the fact that we want to keep the spirit in our home,
Yeah,
that's the ultimate goal. And so, like, whether it doesn't have to be from us, we don't have to be the teacher. We can release that
that's so true.
and just allow, if they learn it, it's good.
I
Like
love that.
we want the ultimate teacher to be the spirit anyway. So even if it's directly from the spirit, nothing we've ever said, because it's in the home, we can say that's the most important thing, that is that they learned it.
I
That
love that.
she's trying to process through her emotions in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Check, it's great. And it didn't have to be through me, so yay. You know, but yeah. So although I want to talk to you forever,
I
always,
know. Same.
we should give other people's ears a little bit of a break. And I just am going to ask you our final two questions. So, Kista, what makes you beautiful? And as a for anyone who's new to this, when I say beautiful, I don't mean color, shape, or size. I mean your divine identity. What makes Kista's divine identity beautiful? And that could have physical attributes to it, but it also is so much to do with who God made you to be. So, Kista, what makes you beautiful?
So you actually asked me this one time when we weren't on the podcast, so I had a little heads up about it, and I don't remember what I said that time. Um, but I think it's my light, and it's not always been there. In fact, there was definitely some very dark times, and they still come around. But when the light is there, it doesn't matter if I wore makeup or what I did with my makeup. I am so beautiful. And I've been told since I was a kid I was not good looking and made fun of and bullied. And it's really interesting to me because the worldly version of beauty is not God's version of beauty, and our light reflects him, and he can make all of us beautiful in a way that the world doesn't understand. And it's funny because people come into our home and they're like, the spirit is so strong here, and we're all fighting. We're like, what? But there is a light, and it does get magnified even if we're not trying sometimes, because that's what someone else might need. And so when you say radiant, that's what I think of. And I think of like that radiating of light. And so um, that that is what I think makes me beautiful.
So there's this visual that I have in my mind. If you guys haven't seen the music video that goes with oh, I don't even remember the song anymore. It's one of the Strive to Be songs. I'll link it in the show notes. That's what I'll do. And you can go and watch it. What happens in this music video, there's a girl that has a flashlight and she walks around to other people. They have a flashlight, but it's not on. And it's dim and dark. And as she goes to them and she touches them, their light comes on. And slowly but surely, the light gets brighter and brighter. And what I love about that is her light started from God, and by her sharing her light, others' lights were able to start, and all the light got brighter and brighter. And it's true, you do radiate. And the stories you've shared about having Middle Eastern meals in your home, or helping people go to the temple, or all the different ways that you use your light to lift others, it just they can't help but have their lights start to shine brighter too, and the ripple effect continues, and that light just keeps spreading. And so I think that is incredibly beautiful.
I can't wait to see that video. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's awesome. And then the second question is, how do you let your light shine? And as I like define this, it's like we all have our own specific purpose and mission here on earth. And so that's kind of what I'm asking more towards is, how do you let what God made you to be shine? How do you use it to influence the world and bring the world brightness?
I think I am still learning these. He gives me little projects. And so basically just listening to the spirit, even if it's totally out of my comfort zone, like being on a podcast. um, that's kind of it, is just following through with these little calls that are coming from God, and taking action and asking him to lead, of course, through this. Um, and that's been amazing. And I've seen not just the doors open, but I've seen the light spread. And I think that as long as I keep doing that, he'll keep giving me little projects. Be that willing, here am I, send me.
Yeah.
Um, and I think one thing, I was having a bit of a hard time towards the end of last summer, and I was kind of praying. I was going to the temple and I was kind of praying about it. And the spirit just whispered, whenever you're bearing your testimony about Jesus Christ or his gospel, like, you are not just shining, but you're happy, like you feel joy. And that is when he said, you need to be online. That was not my comfort zone. I'm still figuring it out, honestly. Really, I only post if he like,
All
but so it's just really just sharing my testimony, sharing my stories, sharing my experiences, and just this whole I will not give up on us. And we don't just I don't just have my immediate family. I have everybody that came from heaven, and I can meet this beautiful woman in Utah at a conference and know I knew you before. And so that's been one thing that's been really amazing, is just meeting people, getting outside of my comfort zone and recognizing those. I knew you before, and I wanted to be part of your little bit of your earth life. And I got to do that. And I just think that that's just kind of been some of the great blessings from sharing my light.
So
I'm
good.
excited to see what comes more.
Yeah. And I love when they talk about the tapestry, God's great tapestry. We only see our small little part of it, but there's a beautiful piece of art coming to pass because of our little part of it and everybody else's little part of it. And so I just think God's plan is so beautiful, and our ability to play a small role in that plan is so beautiful, and just so grateful for him and to see you and to know your beauty and your little string in it. So it's been such a wonderful journey.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you for coming on our podcast today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the amazing things you taught me. They will be with me for forever.
Yay.
Before we wrap up, I just want to say how incredibly grateful I am for Kista. She's one of those people whose light simply points you to Jesus. As you've heard today, her life hasn't been easy. It hasn't been neat or even predictable. But over and over again, she chooses to trust the Lord, to follow his promptings, and to keep showing up with faith. And because of that, her little piece of God's great puzzle shines so beautifully. As I was listening to her share today, I couldn't help but wonder about you. What is the beautiful piece of God's puzzle that only you can bring? What gifts has he placed inside of you that maybe you've overlooked, minimized, or even mistaken for weaknesses? What part of your story is he inviting you to embrace instead of hide? Because just like Kista, your story matters, your light matters, and the world needs the unique way that you reflect Jesus Christ. If today's conversation stirred something in your heart and you're wondering if it's time to deepen your relationship with the Savior, discover your own God-given radiance, and learn how to partner with him even more intentionally in your everyday life, I'd love to invite you to explore Radiant Motherhood Society. We'll be opening the doors again this fall, and if you're wondering whether it might be the next step God's inviting you to take, I'd love to chat with you. You can book a free discovery call using the link in the show notes. There's no pressure, just a chance to pray together, talk through where you are, and see if it's the right fit. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Until next time, keep letting your light shine, because someone else's path may become brighter simply because you chose to share it. Thanks for listening. As we close this shining moment, I hope you remember this. The light you just heard isn't rare because it's extraordinary. It's precious because it's hers. And the same is true for you. Your beauty, your story, and the way you love and serve matter deeply to God. No one else carries your piece of his work. And no one else can place it the way you can. If this conversation stirred something in you, I would love to share your story too. If you feel ready, you can sign up to be a guest through the link in the show notes. Until next time, keep shining exactly where you are.